Well, let's talk about Twitter. That's right. The media landscape, and I've actually been thinking about maybe we actually need to do a whole topic on just what's happening in the media and just like what's happening with media outlets, etc. at the moment. But I don't know whether you noticed, whether you saw it recently, but there was a year ago, Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire launched a documentary which was called "What is a Woman?" And it's a pretty clear question, clear statement. But it's interesting how this one question of, what is a woman? What defines a woman? Causes so much controversy. You see so many people being asked this in the public, and they either spit out some random, crazy, like ideological, gobbledygook, like talking back on yourself and just talking in circles, crazy talk, or they just clamor up. And it's interesting. I'll see some people interviewed, and they're like, someone will ask, well, what is a woman? And they're like, well, a woman is, well, I just shouldn't talk about that, because no one actually knows how to really define it. People are afraid to be able to define it nowadays. So it was great that Matt Walsh, great leader in his right, a leader of culture, created this documentary to really challenge this one simple question. Well, what is a woman? And to celebrate its 1 year, 1 year anniversary of being released, Daily Wire did a deal with Twitter to be able to launch and release this and make it available for free for 24 hours on the Twitter platform. Because obviously Twitter's now making a big push into more content space. And so they were told that they would have a dedicated page and they would have unrestricted access and all this sort of stuff. And then I think it was like the day before or the day of or something like that, all of a sudden Daily Wire were advised by Twitter that there was hateful speech and wouldn't be allowed to be promoted on there and would be restricted. They posted it up. It blew up, and then as soon as it blew up, it got snuffed out pretty much. And there's been this back and forwards between, Elon Musk, who owns Twitter, and the left and right, and Elon caught in the middle, and everything like this. Is interesting that all that they want to do was publish one of their own documentaries to a public platform. Well, it's now private, but to a public-facing site. And Elon, who is this champion of free speech, so-called champion of free speech, seemingly was now causing, throttling or limiting or restricting speech. And then there's just been, it was interesting over the 24 to 48 hours of this happening, how many people were making accusations and attacking and everything like that. Now, apparently Elon had nothing to do with this. This was people within Twitter. Who knows exactly what happened? But this whole drama, if you see it unfold, it was restricted, and then afterwards, after like 24 or 48 hours, that Elon then posted it himself, promoted the actual tweet himself, and pinned it to the top of his Twitter channel for 24 hours or whatever it may have been. And so it's interesting that there's these leaders that have great content, are trying to achieve their particular outcomes, and even they can't post a video. Even Elon, now who knows whether it was true or not, but even he, who had nothing to do with this restriction, all of a sudden came under fire from both sides because he was being restricted, and then the left was saying that he wasn't doing enough, the right saying he shouldn't be doing anything, and it's all this. So there is these pressures as leaders to be able to stand up against these pressures of, and then, what actually happened afterwards is one of the people quit. The person who was responsible for safety and stuff like that in Twitter also quit. Now, other accusations around that, who knows? But Dr. Rod, this is a very awkward situation where there's something that, let's call it, Elon may not necessarily agree with, but he agrees with free speech, and he allows them to speak out their truth or speak out, share their content. But he gets all this pressure from internal of Twitter, external from media and everything like that to restrict this hateful speech, everything like that. How should we, because, obviously we're here talking about these awkward things, but how do we as leaders in an everyday environment, in our businesses, in our church, in our community groups, how do we as leaders stand up and promote something that is that may be controversial and cause quite a negative backlash?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to go with your convictions.
Yeah.
Be convicted of something and be prepared to stand up for your conviction. And that, of course, certainly was the case with the folk at the Daily Wire. And some of our viewers might not know the Daily Wire. It's, in a sense, alternative media. It's conservative media. They're very honest about being conservative. And, I rather enjoy their podcasts. And look, what you tend to find is that everybody who appears on the Daily Wire, they're people of conviction. And they're not afraid to speak out, in some cases at significant personal cost. So Matt Walsh, who was the star of that documentary, What is a Woman, has 24-hour personal security in his private home because he has regular death threats and so on. So he's paying a significant price for going with his conviction. But I would encourage leaders everywhere to go with their conviction, but recognise that there may be a significant cost. It's interesting, isn't it, that documentary, during its short life on Twitter, received 171 impressions. Now, that doesn't mean that 171 million impressions, not 171.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, of course, that 171 million people actually watched the documentary from beginning to end. But I believe this was history-making.
Yes.
Now, it hasn't come easy. We know, of course, that Matt Walsh in particular, but also others at the Daily Wire, like Ben Shapiro, have received a lot of negative pushback from the left, but they have stuck with their guns. And the Daily Wire as an organisation has stood by Matt Walsh as well, which is really quite something. And it just goes to show that if we are prepared to stand up for our convictions, but to do so armed with information and good, solid arguments.
Yeah,
and that certainly is the case with people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you watch the documentary, you can see that it's not an opinion piece.
No,
like he goes in and he's dedicated himself quite greatly to this cause of what is a woman, and you hear him talking about it. You hear him, always on. He's been on Dr. Phil. He's been on, The View. Pretty sure he's been on The View. No, he's been on another one, like a bunch of those kind of, talk shows and stuff like that. And he just has backed up. He knows he knows what he's talking about.
He certainly does. His background is Catholic, of course.
Yes.
And he's quite. He doesn't claim this, but he's quite something of an apologist.
Yes.
His apologetics is very, very strong, in my opinion. So he knows. See, this is the thing. We've touched on this in previous podcasts. He knows what he believes, and just as importantly, he knows why he believes it.
Yeah.
And as leaders, we need to be like that.
And Yash, our producer, has just put up, a little bit of a screenshot of what is a woman. Like, go and check it out. Go and, if you want to know how to stand up for your convictions, watch something like this. This is a great example. Now, And go, as always, links for everything are down in the description. Actually, I don't think I linked directly to What is a Woman. So, Yash, if you want to chuck in that link in the description as well. Now, we talk about convictions, but Dr. Rod, how do we know what our convictions are? If that makes sense, like how do you know?
Yeah.
What am I convicted about, or what am I just opinionated about? What am I convicted about, or what am I just I've picked up somewhere from someone at some point, and it's just an opinion that I picked up from someone.
Oh, look, I think the best way is to spend some time thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, as a dad and a grandfather, I've had plenty of opportunities to think about many, many issues as they pertain to family life, to career, and certainly to church life as well as a pastor in more recent years. But I think we start really by thinking issues through and also discussing them with others and being aware of what's happening in the media in relation to current affairs, what's happening politically, and so on.
Mm-hmm. And so, what is we talk about what is a woman, but what's the difference between a conviction and an opinion?
Look, they're very closely related. I would say that an opinion is simply not as well researched as a conviction,
Okay.
and therefore an opinion is something that is more likely to shift than a conviction. We come to a conviction after we've done our research and researched the pros and the cons, and particularly researched what the Bible might have to say about a particular issue or a topic or an action.
I would say, like, 100% correct. What I would add to that for me is, I think, if I think about the things that I'm convicted in or with or of, whatever the correct grammar is there, the things that I'm truly, like, I'll stand on a rock, are things that I have experienced, and I've had. I hate to use this word because it is actually kind of over spiritualizing it, but I've had an encounter, right? Whether it be a spiritual encounter or I've had an encounter with a person. So, for example, our mission is to eradicate poor leadership. I have a conviction about that because I have had too many negative encounters under poor leadership. I've had too many encounters with people that they have had encounters under poor leadership, and they've been hurt by it, damaged by it, not fulfilling their purpose, not feeling fulfilled in life, like out of a relationship with Christ, all those things. Like the reason why I'm convicted about those things is because I've had an encounter with it. I've had an experience, a personal experience with it. When I talk about Jesus, Dr. Rod, you know my past. I had this defining moment in my life, which if I had not have had, I feel like I had a spiritual encounter with Jesus, and if I had have gone left, if I had have not gone the way that Jesus told me to go, I'd be in jail right now. And no one, like, that's not like, I'd probably be in jail. No. I would be in jail. He saved me from that. And ever since that, I had this encounter, I had this experience that I'm convicted to knowing I know Jesus, not only is Jesus real, but he saves, and he saves now, not just for salvation. He saves us now. And that's my conviction. I will argue with anyone because I've had that encounter. I've had that experience that I can stand up for this, and I know that I'm called to stand up for this. I've got a conviction of it. But I think that what you're saying also about the research is, yes, I had that conviction, and then I spent years going away and researching with the leadership stuff. I had those encounters, and then I went away and did my master's in leadership. I went and tried to study as much as I could to learn best. I didn't just turn around and go, all right, I'm against poor leadership now, and just went and did my own thing, which Shameless plug. Yes, thanks, Yash. Shameless plug. Link down description or have a look at the QR code there. Free leadership development. Free leadership development program. Yes, not selling you anything, just free because my conviction, because we believe that we are called to eradicate poor leadership. Too many people are hurt. Too many people are not living their purpose because they're sitting under poor leadership. So please go and check out our free leadership development app and go and check out that program. Help you discover your purpose and all that. So that's great. Looking at your convictions from the Daily Wire perspective and from Matt Walsh, awesome. What about someone like Elon? Because while Elon seems to be presenting himself with a lot more conservative views, everything like that, he's always been a self-professed left, right? He's always called himself that in previous. He's saying that he's becoming more moderate now, but he's a man that has a conviction for free speech. It doesn't matter whether it's right or left or whatever. He has a conviction for free speech. But he's getting all of this pressure from internal and external. How do you stand up against that? How do you actually, I mean, it helps to be the richest man in the world and not really care. But how do you get to that point without the money, Dr. Rod?
Oh, look, even if you do have the money, I think it's pretty difficult. We human beings prefer not to be in positions of conflict by and large. We're conflict avoiders.
Yep.
We don't like being criticised. And one reason for that is that we have an inherent desire to be valued by people. And that's one reason, of course, why we need a relationship with Jesus Christ. Yes. Because our value inheres in our relationship to God through Jesus Christ. So everybody has a very strong need to be valued, to be accepted. We're designed for community. We thrive in a community. We thrive in the family setting, for example. We thrive in a neighbourhood. We thrive in a broader community. And so any kind of negative feedback really does us a bit of damage.
Yeah.
And when it's constant, it can do us a lot of damage. And as we know through social media, people, particularly young people, have actually been driven to suicide because they've come under so much negative attack. And I would have to say that in looking at Twitter feeds on a pretty regular basis, I follow a number of people who are my friends. They're conservative. They don't get very much positive feedback on Twitter, let me tell you. Most of it's really, really negative. And that's one reason why, look, I'm not a particularly regular contributor myself because I just couldn't be bothered with all the rubbish that seems to follow, particularly if you've got conservative views. Now, I would have to say also that a lot of conservatives are pretty poor in terms of the way they respond to those on the left as well. Yes. Look, I think it's very difficult. I do think one of the issues that he has to deal with is culture. Yeah. So obviously Twitter and the other major social media platforms have been very strongly acculturated towards the left, even towards the far left. Yeah. And Elon Musk has come along and bought Twitter. And as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it's worth about half what he paid for it now. And there are lots and lots of advertisers who are a little bit wondering whether they should continue to advertise and so on. And quite clearly with this incident over what is a woman, the culture hasn't shifted quite to the degree that he would like it to. Because I think he was obviously quite embarrassed by what happened. Yeah. It went against his wishes. It went against his instincts for free speech. And as we saw, there was a senior executive who resigned over it, whose job it was to oversee that whole area of what we might call censorship. Ella Irwin was her name, the head of trust and safety. And that was appropriate, in my opinion.
Now, that being said, there was something that Tim Pool said on Timcast that actually I thought was, I really enjoy watching Tim because he tries to see things from all different perspectives. He does that. And so what he said is that person who resigned, she has been known to be behind a lot of the people on the right getting their Twitter accounts back. And it seemed like she was one that was standing up for, the safety and everything like that, and actually the real freedom of speech. And it's interesting that she's resigned, and people have jumped on the fact that she's resigned to maybe, she was the one that was at fault with this. But I liked what Tim said. His take was maybe she didn't quit because she was forced to resign. Maybe she quit because she was trying to give this documentary freedom and access, and this new CEO that there's some questions about where her loyalties lie. Maybe there was just too much pressure from her or other people within Twitter to restrict this thing, and she just said, I can't work in this environment if I'm meant to, if I'm not able to do my job properly, there's no point me being here. So I thought that was a pretty good point. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves over time. I'd love to be able to hear her reasoning for that, because let's just say it was that, hypothetically. I think there's a number of really good examples here of people. We're having awkward conversations. The Daily Wire and Matt Walsh, they're standing up for their convictions and having awkward conversations about what is a woman. And then you've got Elon Musk, who's standing up for people, or standing up for free speech of what he believes, and going against the grain and against a lot of kickback. And then you've got this other person, let's say hypothetically, that she quit because she said, no, like, I'm not going to stand for you guys limiting things when we're not meant to be limiting them. It just shows that sometimes, and once again, hypothetically, because we are a metaphorical show, we look at things metaphorically. If that is the case, it's almost the ultimate of, are you willing to lose your job over what you believe? Are you willing to actually stand up that much? Are you able to stand up and create something like What is a Woman and publish it like Daily Wire, or stand up for things like Elon Musk? Because, as Dr. Rod said, we have to know what our convictions are. Remember, the difference between a conviction and an opinion is just, it's more researched, and we've had an encounter, we've had an experience that is confirmed. Like, yes, this is a conviction. Conviction should be something that comes from your heart, not just a thought that comes from your mind that just, that sounds good, and I'll run with that. But we as leaders, in the face of awkward conversations, we have to know what we are convicted about and what we are going to stand up for. We have to, in the face of all these awkward conversations, all these things that we shouldn't be talking about as leaders. No, you can't talk about that. You need to know what you're convicted for. And part of why we're talking about it today is, you know what, like, part of our challenge is, I know we've been called to speak against poor leadership. And I believe there's too many leaders that are bowing under the pressures of not being able to say the right thing, not being able to do what they believe is true, just because of the pressures that they're receiving from external. So know what you're convicted for. Stand up for what your convictions are, and against all pressure. Hey, you just watched an excerpt from the On the Cube Leadership Podcast. If you like that, hit the like button and put a comment below. Hey, if you want to watch more videos like this, check out our channel, and while you're there, make sure you subscribe.